Hello, we have Ximena here today to chat with us about herself and her family and her business. Thank you for joining us.
Sure. Hi, Kate. Nice to meet you.
Why don't you go ahead and tell me about yourself and your business?
I am a musician. I'm a mother of a 3.5-year-old. And our business, me and my cousin started a company called, or a platform, I would say, called Juliet and the Elf. My second name is Juliet, and the elf, I've always called my son the elf. And since he was really young, I was always playing him classical music and jazz music. And I started realizing how much it affected him, what kind of music he was listening to. So I started doing some research and realized how important it is for kids to listen to complex music. And then it turned out that on my personal Instagram stories, my friends were seeing this music in the background, and at least once a week, one or two friends would text me and say, what should we be listening to? Can you recommend something to play while they're sleeping? And it just happened all the time. So we were like, maybe this is something that people, would like to integrate into their parenting. So we decided to make it into a tool that parents can use in their everyday life.
That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. Any particular favorites?
Music wise?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So many. I mean, Peter and the Wolf by Prokofiev is definitely one of our top things that we listen to. It's such a beautiful orchestral, it's like an orchestral audiobook, basically. So there's narration, and every character is represented by an instrument, and the narrator tells the kids, which instrument is which character. And so there's this whole learning about the orchestra that happens. And at the beginning of the pandemic, actually, the three of us, my husband and my son and I, would sit at 9 a.m. on the couch and just sit and listen to the whole 30 minutes of Peter and the Wolf. And it was like a way of okay, we're gonna be okay. We can get through this type of feeling. But I think it's a great introduction to classical music and orchestral music for kids of all ages.
That's really nice. And I'm impressed that your son would sit for that long. It must be really relaxing. And I think a lesson for all of us parents, because we sometimes forget to slow down and take a minute and, just to listen and tune out. So has that been sort of your go-to, as far as one of your parenting skills during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I think helping kids develop listening as a skill and as an active thing to do, to be actively listening, is hugely important. And it affects their brain development in a lot of different ways, including in a basic way of if you call them and you give them an instruction, they will be able to listen better if they know and have been developing the skill of actively listening. And actively listening doesn't mean they have to sit still and listen.
Right.
They can be doing an activity and listening. But to have listening be the center of an entertainment, has been something we really use as a tool all the time. If he, I don't know, doesn't want to brush his teeth, it's well, what song should we listen to while you brush your teeth?
That's such a good tip.
The music is a reward, him choosing the song that he wants to listen to, and it can be anything, is the fun thing to do. Or in the car, he doesn't want to get in the car, and it's okay, well, should we listen to Mary Poppins or Peter and the Wolf in the car? And him, excuse me, being excited about listening to something actively, and he can be doing something with his hands or eating or whatever, but that being, versus the screen, which we all, have to fight with sometimes. And that's been a huge tool that we have developed over the pandemic.
That's amazing. I think just to give you a bit of background, I have two young boys. One just turned 4 and the other is 5, and they're both in school. And giving them that sort of choice, an option, gives them so much empowerment, and it makes everything go so much smoother.
Yeah.
And they don't realize it, but it's oh, mom's giving me a choice. this isn't so bad. Maybe I won't put up a stink.
Yeah, totally.
And like
Totally.
very similar to you, I find that having the background music while they are playing really helps and kind of creates like a little bit more focus, I've noticed. There's a lot less fighting and there's a lot less yelling because like it's not necessarily like watching a screen and keeping occupied. It's like having this sort of like background noise and rhythm to like guide me to do something else. And it's really amazing, like even just like in arts and crafts or like a building something, like I find it very helpful.
Yeah, and there's a scientific reason for that. Like it's not just like we feel that and it's kind of an instinct about it.
Yeah.
There's been lots of studies of how the rhythm of music directly affects your heartbeat and your blood pressure. Because music, there is no center for music in the brain. Like there's a center for eyesight, there's a center for hearing, for taste. But music or hearing takes up it kind of co-opts a lot of different parts of the brain. So it makes the brain have to come together, all together, connect in order to be able to listen. And it comes through the brain stem. And the brain stem is what regulates your heartbeat and your blood pressure. So when you're listening to a slow music, your heart, your blood pressure slow down. And when you're listening to fast music, heartbeat and blood pressure increase. And that's been scientifically proven. So if you want your kids to sit down and focus on an activity or an event, it is hugely important what kind of music and what tempo, what rhythm the music has that you put in the background. And I find that when there isn't music, they might focus as long, maybe, but music is such a massive container because, again, it just brings the whole brain together.
Mm-hmm.
It really promotes that focus and that concentration. And it's really a shame not to use their hearing sense because they're using every other sense. And we talk about sensory play so much. And we don't always talk about the hearing part of sensory play.
Mm-hmm.
It's the smell and it's the touch and it's the motor skills. But adding the hearing sense and the listening sense really heightens everything to a new level.
What type of ways do you incorporate into like your music play?
Anything we do, Play-Doh, any sensory bin stuff, Clixo, obviously, magnetiles, puzzles, blocks. Really, I use music all the time for basically everything we do. To the point where my son lately, like, he prefers to listen to audio stories when he's doing stuff right now.
Oh, good idea.
He prefers to listen to audiobooks. And so I've been like scavenger hunting for good podcasts and good audiobooks that have music usually in it.
I never thought of doing like an audiobook. That is such a good idea.
Because they also while they're doing this thing with their hands, the story is taking them into this imaginary place and they just like zen out, they just go into this. There's a couple of great classical stories, like Peter and the Wolf is one of them. There's a few called Classical Kids, but it's kind of hard to find through that name. But on Spotify, now they're on Spotify, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. One is called Tchaikovsky Discovers America. And it's like 45 minutes long. And it's about Tchaikovsky coming to America. And he has this whole adventure with two kids and they go to Niagara Falls. And it's all surrounded by music of Tchaikovsky and him explaining why he wrote this piece or that piece. And so it's all integrated, but it's a very fun and like active story. There's another one called Handel's Hallelujah. Excuse me. And that one's a little bit more calm. But again, it's like Handel himself telling about different things, and you listen to his music and you listen to him talk, and it's just like a whole world gets invented. And also there's a podcast I love called Julie's Library with Julie Andrews, and she and her daughter read books, but they don't just read the book. They talk about the words in the book. They invite the author to talk about why he wrote or she wrote that book. And
Mm.
so it's like a whole lesson. It's like a whole classroom lesson for like 25 minutes. So my son loves to listen to that too when he's playing.
He's going to be a very well-rounded boy and have so much knowledge of like, classical music and history.
Yeah, I hope
Is he in
so.
school right now?
Say it again.
Is he in school?
Yes.
Yeah. 3K or nursery?
3K, yeah.
How's he liking it?
He loves it. He's
Good.
such a social. He just like needs to be around other kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that being back in school has really helped all of us.
Mm.
And just to have a little bit of socialization and hearing the stories after school, it feels so good. We did a year of pre-K over Zoom last year.
Oof.
And I gave my son a lot of credit for like powering through it. And thank goodness they were like very short bits at a time, but he stuck through it. So I hope we don't have to go back to that.
I think the only thing I was glad about during pandemic was not having a school-aged child.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And what is your son's name?
Marcel.
Marcel, I love it.
Yeah, what are your kids' names?
Dylan and Charlie.
Nice. Beautiful.
Thank you. So what do you guys like to do as a family other than classical music?
Let's see, lots of different things. My husband is more of like not, oh my gosh, I have a leaf on my head. He does more sort of like really active games.
Okay.
With my son, so they, play soccer and do things like that. And then my son and I do more sort of focused stuff, but together we love to like bake together. We're not great bakers, but it's just such a fun thing to do with kids. And I feel like it teaches them so much about like patience and having to wait and,
It sounds
saving.
like you really did your homework as a parent. Like, I applaud you. You're doing
just
great,
my personality. Mom. This is what I do for everything. Like if I have to like go get a haircut, I like research. That's just who
I find, we do the same thing. What is Marcel's other hobbies? Does he have any favorite toys?
Yeah, let's see. Lately, well, he loves magnet tiles and anything magnetic. So like the Clixos and magnet tiles and building stuff and, building houses and playing with that. He loves doing that. Let's see. Lately, he loves. He has. I actually have it right here. He has a couple of stuffed animals which he's never been interested in, and now he's super interested in. And he's super interested in making their voices and having us make their voices too.
Oh, fun.
And that's another thing that's been really interesting lately is that if I'm not his mom and I'm Henrietta the giraffe or whatever, he will like gladly take a bath, brush his teeth, like do all these things because like this giraffe like has never seen these things and she just like wants to see how you do it and like show me how you put these pants. Are these pants? How do you put them? Like on your arms? Like what? And he will just be so glad to like do all these things super easily and do all the transitions just like smoothly just because I'm not his mom in that moment.
That's cute.
So the like play acting and role playing has been a big thing that's developed lately. That actually makes it fun, keeps it like light.
Yeah, of course.
This other thing and like so it's fun. Yeah,
they're constantly changing even their habits and their styles, and one day it's one thing and the next it's like a switch that goes off and it's like, whoa, this just happened overnight. And right, like it's a constant surprise or like change, but it's really fun.
I think every stage is super interesting.
I mean, I hate to ask you this, but do you have any like major challenges right now as like a mom that you're finding, like even like just noise from school or like the outside world or like the pandemic in general?
With him or like as a person?
Yeah, just as like a parent.
Yeah. I think I mean this is hard as a parent. Wow, you really caught. I'm really drawing a blank.
I can start if that's helpful.
Yeah, go for it.
I think some of the things that I've found challenging, of course, is having to explain maybe like I do watch the news a lot, and I probably shouldn't. And so when my boys are around, they do catch, snippets of what they hear. And I think some of that stuff can be very powerful. And a lot of questions arise like, why are so many people sick? Or how much longer do I have to wear a mask? Or when do I get my shot? So like all these things are constantly coming up, and it's really just kind of refocusing on like the bigger picture, and that we're doing these things to stay healthy and to keep other people healthy, and we're taking it one day at a time. But they've been so great and like adaptive, I think even more so than like us as adults. And one of the things that I also find challenging is that uh for the most part, a lot of parents are on the same level as us, and like where we, how we respect each other's, like, I guess, safety concerns. So it's all about kind of just taking a step back and trying to help people, and just, really focusing on that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the pandemic in general is a challenge, and poor Marcel has been around for most of it. So it must be very normal for him, correct?
Half his life, yeah. More than half his life, I guess. Um, we don't really watch the news in front of him.
Yeah.
We read the news in front of him, but he wouldn't know.
Right.
I think it's been more a little bit, I guess, especially during the pandemic. He's such a social kid, and we were always, when he was a baby, very active and intentional in making sure he was a very independent child. So we would, whoever's house we would be, or whoever would be at our house, be like, do you want to hold the baby? Do you want to hold the baby? Just very much about like, there are other people that can, take care of you too. Like
Right.
you don't always just have to be with me. I always just believe, my mom raised me that way. And so he was so easygoing and would just do anything with anybody. We could ask any friend to come over and babysit, and he would be happy and do all the things and go to bed and do the things. And then pandemic, obviously, like he like had to like shut down. And he clammed up to a point where like he didn't want to leave the house ever. Like he wanted to like go out for a walk around the block. And then when playgrounds started opening, like he wanted to see other kids, but it was so hard to get him out of the house because he had just clammed up so much. And now he doesn't feel that way anymore. Sometimes, like it's sometimes still hard for him to go out. He prefers to be inside, except when he's going to school. But what has happened is that he isn't as adaptive with other people. So my parents were here for 3 weeks, and I just thought like, oh, they're going to do all the bedtimes and all the bath times, and we're going to have so much free time. He's just going to be playing with them all day. And he did not. He was attached to us like at the hip. He felt weird that they were, I think, in his house, in his space, because they were staying with us. So I think that's been really challenging for us, because we've had to like reframe, like, okay, he's not used to this anymore. Or he has friends come over, and he loves when friends come over, but friends are not necessarily used to being in somebody else's house. And so there's all these dynamics of the young kids having to figure out whether they can be open, whether they need to be shut down, and they don't really know, what are the different circumstances. Yeah, when we all got vaccinated and suddenly a few friends started coming to the house, he would like hide in his room because he didn't understand what was happening. And at some point I realized, oh wait, I need to explain to him that there's a degree of safety,
Yeah.
So,
even at that age, like even though they don't really say much back to you, or you don't think they understand it, I think they do understand a lot more than we actually realize. So I think it's important to keep like open the conversation, even if you sense a little bit of fear in your child, like just that little reassurance kind of goes a long way.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I definitely forget in this circumstance that he's not up to date, and I also don't want to overwhelm him with information.
Right.
But as far as with other things, I'm actively making sure that I'm talking to him about, race and talking to him about, you know, a lot of other different things. I think the illness or COVID itself, I kind of forget that I have to keep him praised, you know, to a certain degree.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A little hug too always helps. Like, who could say that? All right, cool. And I guess, yeah, the last question I have is something I like to ask a lot of parents because it also helps me too. But I guess, what do you want most for your son?
In life?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's a loaded question.
To know how to love and be loved. To be passionate about things, not to be apathetic. Just to be passionate about things and go after them. But mostly to know how to love and how to be loved, which I think both are difficult things. There's one thing my parents always told me, and I'm teaching my son. They would always ask me, who do you love the most? And I would say, you know, depending on the name, mommy or daddy. And they would say, no, you first, then everybody else. And that was such a huge lesson that if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else, or if there's going to be, you know, so much, you're starting on the wrong foot type thing. And we're starting to teach that to my son, and I like seeing him say, like, I love myself. Yeah.
That is so important, you know.
Yeah.
I think especially in like a day and age where, you know, as he gets older, all the things in the world, like the internet, what you see on TV, social media, like it's very important to have that base level of confidence and to know like who you are and going forward. So that's such an important lesson.
Yeah.
That's great. That warms my heart.
Yeah. I think especially like you're saying, nowadays where so much validation comes from the outside.
Right.
You know, it has to start.
None of that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Very cool. I love this conversation. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I mean, I want to remind people if they want to receive playlists of good, beautiful, complex classical and jazz music, they can sign up at julietandtheelf.com.
We will check it out. Thank you so much, Ximena. It's been a pleasure.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.